The Ford F150 XLT is a fantastic ride. We've got the option for the XLT Sport Pack, the Black Appearance Package, and then brand new for 2023, we also have the Heritage Package, which is going to give it a slightly different look than what you're going to find in some of the other packages you'll find in the F150 XLT. Steve here, and before we dive into the 23 XLT, I do want to give Formula Ford a huge shout out and a thank you for giving me access to this truck to shoot the video for you guys today. Check down in the description below for their contact details, and if you're in the market for an F-150, Formula Ford has you covered. So I'll have their contact info down below. You can reach out to them to get a quote, put through a factory order, whatever the case may be. Now, the XLT F-150 has a ton of different features available. It's one of the few F-150 models that's available in the regular cab, the Super Cab, or the SuperCrew, which means we can find it with the 5.5, 6.5, or the 8-foot box. On top of that, you'll be able to find it with the regular 3.3 liter engine. You've got the 2.7 EcoBoost, the 3.5 EcoBoost, the Power Boost, and then the optional Lightning, which was introduced for the 2022 model year. So it's kind of exciting. Now, when we look at the XLT in general, 22 to 23, there aren't a ton of changes between the two model years. Especially in the XLT, there are a few differences with color choices and things like that. The Heritage Package is really where the XLT is going to shine this year, giving that slightly more unique look than what you're going to find in the traditional F-150. But this thing is nice. Now, this one is just your regular Oxford white. A few new color choices that are available for the 2023 model, but this looks sharp, especially when we look at the Black Appearance Package that's available inside of the vehicle. But it is nice. The F-150 is going to have the option for either 17, 18, or 20-inch tires, depending on how you have the rest of the truck configured. When we look at the new Heritage Package for the 2023 model, it will be 18-inch tires you're going to find inside of this. But, I mean, overall, it does look nice. Now, we do have a series of different options for, we've got two different options for the drivetrain of the vehicle. It's either going to be rear-wheel drive, so a 4x2, or a 4x4. So you've got a few different options there. When we look at the Lightning version of the truck, we will also have a few different options for either the extended range or standard range, again, depending on your build. But charge times and things like that are all over the place, but it is really nice that we've got that as an option. But we do have a ton of things. Now, we have the option for the FX4 off-road package, which, I mean, if you're going to be taking this thing off-road is nice. It gives you all-terrain tires, different suspension, and skid plates underneath. But if you're never going to be going off-road, I'd probably recommend against the FX4 package. There was actually somebody who commented on one of my videos recently, and he actually used one of the F-150 front leveling kits. He threw on some beefy all-terrain tires, and his fuel economy took about a 10% hit in regular day-to-day driving, but towing capacity took like a 40% hit from the leveling kit as well as those beefy tires. So whether you decide to do some aftermarket upgrades or not, it's going to be your choice. Just go in knowing that any sort of upgrades that you do, so leveling kits, different tires, things like that, it will end up affecting your overall fuel economy. So something to consider there. Towards the front end of the vehicle, we've got our LED headlamps, fog lamps down below. We've got two front tow hooks there, but I like the way the XLT Sport Pack grille looks. It's nice, it's dark, it's me. Now, I gotta say though, the XLT Black Appearance Package just takes it to that next level, gives you an even more unique look. We've got black accents and black wheels and things like that. So it is really, really nice. But I mean, this nice kind of like black and white look is fairly sharp. There's just something about that black on black look that is really, really nice. All right, getting underneath the hood of the F-150, straightforward. Just to the left-hand side of our pedals, we've got a little release. And as you can see there, it popped it up. And then as we pick up, we've got a little release just underneath. So all we're gonna do, right above the Ford badge there, we're just gonna push to the left side, lift, and hydraulics, and Bob's your uncle. Now, I did mention, so the F-150 XLT has a series of different ways that you can power it up. We've got the 3.3 liter V6, 2.7 liter turbo, the 3.5 turbo, the 3.5 Power Boost. You've got the Lightning on top of that, so a ton of different options available. Taking a look at this one, it's just the regular 2.7 liter engine, which means that we're looking at 325 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. So a good amount of power at the end of the day. Easy access if we need to top up fluids ourselves. Checking oil, a little bit more challenging. Like, I'm 6 feet tall, I can just kind of reach the dipstick there. Filling up, I'd probably need a stool to make it happen. But the one thing I'm just gonna make sure I stress, just make sure you're taking your vehicle in for regularly scheduled maintenance. So the last thing that you want is, like, if you're not maintaining your vehicle, you potentially will end up voiding your manufacturer's warranty. If something happens, the dealership can then, well, Ford can come back and say, you didn't properly maintain it, so there's no guarantee where things went wrong. So just make sure you're regularly changing your oil, you're regularly maintaining your vehicle. If you're changing your oil, just make sure that you're doing it on the regular, breaking your vehicle in on top of that. So I'll have all those numbers showing up down below. Filling up fuel in the F-150 is straightforward, just on our driver's side, and it's going to be an unlock system for everything except for the power boost. So when we get into that hybrid, it's going to be a locked cover. Outside of that, it's going to be unlocked, and we've got a capless system, so just insert, fill up, and you're good to go. Looking at fuel quality, minimum manufacturer's recommendation across the entire F-150 lineup is just going to be your regular 87 gas. So you don't need to use a premium, but a little bit of a caveat to that. The horsepower and torque specs that we're looking at underneath the hood are all achieved using a premium fuel. So do you need to use it? Absolutely not, especially the way gas prices are right now. But if you want truest performance out of this thing, a 91, 94 octane would be ideal. But like I said, not necessary whatsoever. Now, when it comes down to the Lightning version of the F-150, the charge door is going to be in the front of the truck instead of the back here. But we've got a series of different options for charging, level 1, 2, supercharging, etc. If you're looking for more of a look on how the F-150 Lightning works, check down in the description below for that walkthrough on the Lightning truck specifically instead. The Lightning is really, really nice. Now, one thing, apparently the Lariat, so the trim level up, is the best-selling Lightning model so far. Kind of nice, but it makes sense because of all the extra goodies that you've got. But like I said, you want to see that walk around? Check down below for it. When we look at the XLT, we've got a few options for generic packages. We've got the XLT 300, we've got the 301 versus the 302. And all of those are going to have some different options and things like that. So this is the 302, so we've got a reverse sensing system, we've got our blind spot monitoring system, and a few other great things. Some nice things on the inside, like power adjustable driver passenger seats, etc. But which version you go for is going to depend on your overall budget. I do like when we have the reverse sensing system, especially in trucks, making sure you're not destroying the bumper in cars and trucks around you as you're backing up. But some things you're going to find regardless of whatever version of the F-150 you're in. We will have our backup camera there. We've got our zone lighting on top of that, which is kind of cool. A few different packages as well when it comes down to towing, so whether that's just the base receiver versus the full tow package on top of that. But we've got our 4 7-pin provisions there. We've got our little key there, and that key spot is going to be to unlock the spare tire that's located just underneath the vehicle. Now, looking at towing inside of the F-150, that's kind of a beast in and of itself. There are so many different things to consider. Are you 4x2 versus 4x4? Are you in the 5.5, 6.5, or the 8-foot box? Regular cab, super crew. So a ton of different things to take into account. The 2.7 liter has a respectable towing capacity inside of it. But I mean, there are a lot of things you have to think of, because if you're kind of getting to your max towing numbers on the 2.7, looking at either the Coyote 5 liter or the 3.5 liter EcoBoost would be your next best option. Because if you're getting really close to that number, you have to remember max towing is also going to include your payload. So if you've got a bunch of people in there, a bunch of things in the bed of the truck, that's going to subtract from all of your available numbers as well. So something to think about. And payload is actually something interesting to look at all at the same time. And the reason why, so when we look at payload, that's going to include our tongue weight for our trailer. Now, this truck, max on paper, is 1,760 pounds. When we get the 2.7 liter payload package, that's going to bump it up to 1,965 pounds. One thing about payload capacity is that it's going to depend on the build of the rest of your truck. Now, this one doesn't have the 2.7 liter EcoBoost payload package, but 1,760 pounds on paper, the actual max for this configuration with all the different features and things like that it has is a little over 1,400 pounds. So I'll have those numbers showing up as configured, but it's something to think about because on paper versus reality, we're about 300 pounds less in reality compared to what our max is on paper. Because when we're looking at different towing guides and things like that, it's based off of having a stripped down truck. So we throw all these different features in, we throw in the sunroof, different running boards, etc. It's going to subtract from our overall payload capacity, which is something to think about. But everything that you throw into the truck is going to affect that. So I did mention your tongue weight, anything you have in the bed of the truck, cargo, different passengers and things like that will all subtract to that from that number. So you do have different options, like if you're getting a little bit too close with the 2.7, you could bump yourself up to the 3.5 instead. But if you're in the 3.5 and you're kind of nickel and diming, you should probably just look at a Super Duty truck just to make sure you're not maxing out at those numbers. Bed dimensions for the truck are going to be showing up, and we've got a few different options available. Now, this one is the 5.5 foot box. So we've got the option for the 6.5 and the 8 foot box on top of that, depending on the rest of the configuration, because unfortunately we can't get the SuperCrew with the 8 foot box. That's strictly going to be when you get into the Super Duty. But this thing is fairly spacious, and as you can see there, stripped down and naked in the back. So we do have options for different liners, whether that's spray-in bed liners, drop-in liners. You can do it from the factory, aftermarket, from your dealer, whatever the case may be. It's going to depend on what you like the look of and what you're going to be doing with the truck. Spray-in liners are easy enough to spray down, but they're a pain to sweep off, versus the plastic drop-ins, easier to sweep off and spray down, and you can also replace it fairly easily. Now, if you're looking at the spray-in bed liner, you do have the option of going for Line-X. That's about twice as thick as the factory liner, and it also has a lifetime warranty. So really something that's nice there to think about. And then over top, a ton of options there too. We've got the option for nothing, or we could do a trifold hardtop. We've got soft tops, soft rolling, hard rolling. You could do a cap as well. So literally sky's the limit. There's some pretty cool bed extenders that we can look at. We've got some options for sliding trays and things like that. Now, we also have options for things like ramps. So if you're going to be loading in toys, so ATVs, bikes, etc., we can get ramps right from the factory that would be mounted right along the side. So there are literally so many options that are available inside of this truck. And it's really, what's your imagination like? The sky's really the limit for how you can design the bed and functionality and things like that. This one also does have the tailgate step. So, little button there. Follow the yellow. Feel like, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, we're following the yellow brick road, but in this case it's all of the yellow buttons. But the tailgate step is useful if you're going to constantly get in and out of the bed of the truck. We could just look at a side step instead, but I mean, realistically, having this step is really useful if you're constantly getting in and out of the truck. If you're not a big deal. Now, we've got a few options, because if yours doesn't come with the tailgate step, could you get one aftermarket? Yes, if you could find one of these gates, because you unfortunately just can't install it. But one cool thing, it is easy enough to take this off. We've just got some screws on the outside there if we wanted to kind of unbolt this thing and replace it. So it is technically easy enough to do if we wanted to. But I mean, I love it. I love how easy it is to use this thing, following the yellow in order to close it again. But one cool thing, some other things with the tailgate itself, we do have a few clamps there. We've also got all of our measurement units and things like that. So if you need to use this thing on the go, you've got that flexibility. Towards the left side of the bed here, we've got our little light there, so we can push that in order to turn on all of our bed lighting. And we also do have this. So it's just a regular wall outlet, so 120 volt. But when we get into certain things, like when we look at Pro Power on board, or if you've got the Lightning, that's going to look slightly different with significantly more plugs and more power draw available. So you've got a ton of options, a 2 kilowatt hour, 2.4 kilowatt hour, 7.2 kilowatt hour, and then as you get into the Lightning, even more power. So it's going to depend on what you need out of the truck and what you're planning on doing with it. Taking a look at our driver's side door, we do have a little icon there that's going to highlight, and that's our blind spot system. So if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side, that's going to highlight. Off to the side here, so you can see we've got 5-digit number there. So we've got a 5-digit factory number. We can also program our own unique one if we'd like to. And that's just so we can get in and out of the truck if we don't have our fob on us. We also have the flexibility of pushing these bottom two numbers if we want to be able to lock the door. We can also press here to lock, and then we can slide in order to be able to unlock the door. But let's have a look. So we've got a nice look here. Now I did mention this is the 302A version, so we've got a few things which we'll touch on once we get inside. But along the door here, we've got this nice stitching along the door, follows all the way through. Nice kind of highlight there with a map. And we've got our unlock and our lock button. We also have the option of adjusting our side view mirrors, our windows, our handle, little storage tray there, even more storage down under. Now moving inside, so we can see here we've got a series of different switches, and that's because this is a 302 version of the XLT. But we can move the seat forwards, backwards, up and down using this toggle switch in the front. We can adjust our backrest, and then we've also got two-way lumbar support. When we get into the heritage version of the F-150, we will also have unique seats and a slightly more unique interior. Moving along the side, we've got this nice highlight. Follows all the way throughout the dash, like literally all the way throughout the dash. We'll get to that in a second. But moving down from here, we've got a few switches in order to turn on the lights on our exterior mirrors there, so on our side view mirrors. We've got our tailgate release. We've got the option of turning on our bed lighting. Can toggle our fog lamps on off, adjust what's going on with our running lamps, increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster, electronic parking brake, and then power adjustable pedals. So if you're vertically challenged, we can adjust these things out as necessary. This is just a sticker. I should have removed that before I shot. Here nor there. And then down below, we've got our hood release. And you can also see we've got a manual telescoping steering wheel. So we're just going to drop that down, and then we can either bring it forwards, backwards, up or down, lock it back into place from there. But the interior of this truck is pretty nice. Now, I did mention we've got the Heritage Package, which is new for the 2023 model year. It gives us some nice badging throughout the center stack. On top of that, we also do have some unique seats we're going to find inside of the truck. So it is pretty nice, and it gives us that slightly more unique look if that's what you're going for. But one thing, the Heritage Package, we can only get it with the console in the middle here. So no option for the bench seat if that's one that you really wanted to go for. But so overall styling is great. We've got this like weave texture right across the dash, which is nice. We've got a little removable tray up here, so if we need to clean things off, we can do that too. But I like it. So we've got some nice highlights throughout the door that follow through, wrapping around the media screen as we move down the center stack here too. It looks pretty dang sharp. But if you're looking for more of a walkthrough, like if you want to know how to use the steering wheel cluster or the new Sync 4 media screen, so if you want to know how to set up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, things like that, check in the description below for that walkthrough. And same idea, if you want to know how to use the steering wheel buttons or navigate through the cluster, you'll find that down below on top of that. But some basics, we've got our stick on the left-hand side to figure out what's going on with our wipers in the front there. We've got our cruise control buttons, volume buttons, and things like that. Off to the right-hand side, we can answer or hang up on a phone call, etc. Now, what I did mention, so the steering wheel inside of this thing is going to be a manual telescoping, and that's the same way across the entire XLT lineup. So when we get into the Lariat, that's when we get into the option for the power steering wheel. Outside of that, strictly going to be available as a manual in the XL and the XLT trim. But there are so many nice options. Option 4, push button start inside of this thing, and that's us firing up. Ooh, cool, return to sport mode. Yes, please. That's kind of cool. So we've got a series of different drive modes, but where was I going? So we've got push button start inside of this thing. We've got one message that popped up on the screen asking us if we wanted to resume the previous drive mode that we were in, because we've got selectable drive mode switch, and we've got sport mode. We've also got our eco mode, tow mode. There's a normal mode, slippery, steep snow and sand, mud, rut. So a ton of different options that are available. And the mode that you're in is going to depend on what you're doing with the truck. For the most part, you'll probably be okay in the normal or the eco mode. Sport mode is if you want to unlock truer performance because it holds onto the RPMs a little bit more, gives you a slightly more aggressive as you go. So more aggressive shift points is what we're looking at there. It's really nice though. But so many amazing options inside of this thing. I like that we've got 94.9 FM.
Tuning to FM 94.9.
Like we've got a voice command prompt. Oh, amazing sound. I love the band, but I mean, at the same time, the audio in this is pretty nice, and this is just the standard audio system. We've got the option for different Bang & Olufsen speaker setups when we're in some of the higher trim levels and some optional packages as well. So if audio is really your thing, you would have that available as an option. But I mean, the standard sound and the XLT is really good. I love that song. The band is fantastic, and just like the way that it pumps through this audio system, it still is pretty dang nice all at the same time. But some other cool technology inside of this thing. we've got our Pro Trailer Backup Assist. One of the cool things there is rather than counter steering the steering wheel, we just twist this direction that we want to go, automatically counter steers for us. We've got our integrated brake controller, and then we've also got, because this is the XLT, 3 individual modes. We've got our 2 high, 4 high, 4 low. 2 high is where you're going to be the majority of the time. 4 high is if we're going through snow and things like that, versus 4 low if we're doing aggressive either off-roading, pulling boats out of water, heavy towing, etc. So many cool options. And like, one nice thing that I love is that we do have the option for the engine start, stop, delete, and we can get that done right at time of ordering from the factory. So that little A button that's usually there is not there on this one because it's got that start, stop, delete. So if that feature drives you nuts, you could get it done at the time of ordering your truck from the factory. We've got a little camera button with our little backup camera there, 4-way blinkers. We've also got our traction control on off. But the Sync 4 media screen, like, I love it. It's such an amazing system compared to where we were in previous gens, like the old Sync 3 screen. Now, looking at the F-150 Lightning, that's supposed to be getting the new Android Auto operating system. So when that's happening, not 100% sure. Oh, actually, I should probably turn that back on. Not 100% sure as of yet. It's supposed to be coming in the 2023 Lightning. And then whether it gets shipped out in some F-150s or not, still kind of up in the air, the regular gas version. So probably going to be by 24, we'll see that full rollout for the Android Auto operating system. Curious to see what that's going to be like overall. But so many great features in this screen. Like, we've got audio options, phone options, factory navigation, with the option for connected navigation. So the connected navigation means that we will get our connected services. So things like maps, things like live traffic, weather, etc., all have to be done using a live connection. So it's unfortunate, but at the same time, if you don't want to rely on the factory navigation, we can hook up through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze. So that definitely is available there as an option. But a ton of different options for settings, different features like zone lighting, smart hitch. We've got our towing, onboard scales, and so many other cool features. It's really nice. Now, off to the side a little bit, there is a little button there we can push to get to a little storage area. We've got our glove box down from there. Series of different options for audio, tuning rocker. We've got dual zone climate control as an option in the XLT. Series of other climate control settings. Heated first row seats on top of that. So in the XLT, we do have the option for heated first row, but we're never going to get heated second row seats, unfortunately. But overall styling is great. We've got a few power points there. So a USB, USB-C, a few cup holders there, little storage tray, power folding shifter. One cool thing about the shifter is that we've got our park reverse neutral drive and can drop it down into a manual mode instead. This is the, obviously, console, so the 40 console 40 setup. We do have the option for the bench seat, which would bring our shifter onto the steering wheel instead. But one cool thing, this console, fully lockable if we want to. We've got a removable tray, another USB and another USB-C power point on top of that, and then 2 cup holders right in the back here. Now, as we move up overhead, the option for an auto-dimming rearview mirror. We've got some controls as well for our cabin lights, and then we've also got, let there be light, our sunroof. So it is available there as an option, but I mean, looking at what things you add onto your truck, did mention it's going to depend on what you need out of it, but every feature, every option you add on will end up affecting your max payload capacity. So all of these things, sunroof included, have a net weight. So the more weight we add onto the truck, the less payload we're going to have. So if you want max payload, you're looking essentially at a stripped down, pretty much naked truck in order to get that. But like I said, feature styling wise, this is nice. Overhead from there, we do have our power sliding rear window. Now, one thing, it is power sliding, but we have to hold it in order to be able to open and close it fully. So it's not automatic like what we're going to find in some of our side windows or what we're going to find in the sunroof. Still is nice though. Now from here, we do have our visor, vanity mirror, no light in this XLT. We've got our business card holder from there, and this is going to extend out to block all of the sun that might be hitting our eyes. But I got to say, like, overall, the comfortability of the seat in the XLT, it is pretty nice. Now, it's not lariat nice, but it still is really nice all at the same time. Now, if you're looking for like truest comfort inside of the F-150, the Platinum or the Limited might be where you want to look. We've got our max recline with the option for massage chair seats, depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. But there are a ton of killer options inside of this thing. But I did mention, this is the SuperCrew configuration, which means that we've got a back seat. So let's hop back there and see what's going on space-wise. All right, let's take a peek at the second row. It's nice and spacious. And that's one thing that I love about the SuperCrew version of the F-150 is that we have so much dang space back here. Like, it is wild. Now, I'm 6 feet tall, and like you could definitely fit 3 full-size versions of me next to each other. Like, no issue there whatsoever. Front-facing, rear-facing child seats, not going to have an issue whatsoever inside of this. But we do have a few things to consider. So I did mention that we've got all of our anchor points along the bottom. We've got our tethers and things like that. So front-facing, rear-facing, not a problem. When we look at these super cabs, so the 2 full-door, 2 half-door, we lose some space back here. You probably could be able to comfortably be able to fit the majority of rear-facing child seats into the back here. But just to be sure, if you've got a child on the way, if you've got the seat, bring it into your dealer with a super cab if that's the way you want to go. But there are so many things to consider because, like I said, when we're in the SuperCrew, we've only got the option for the 5.5 or the 6.5 foot box. If you need the 8 foot box, you can look at the super cab with that 8 foot box instead. Like I said, we lose a little bit of space on the inside here, but you get a much, much beefier box. But, I mean, it's going to depend on what you need out of it. I said feature-wise, like we do have cloth seats inside of this thing. The second row seats are actually still fairly comfortable. Oh, that's nice. It's got a nice amount of cushion for the butt, which is great. The seats are locked in place, so we can't recline them whatsoever. It's not a bad thing, though. But some base styling, like a lot of the same styling we saw along the door, including that little map, is in the second row. We've got a little cup holder there, some storage along the door. Behind the first row seats, so the driver passenger side, we've got some pockets. Did mention we've got some cup holders behind the armrest in the first row, and a series of different power points. So we've got a traditional 12-volt power point, 2 USB ports, so a USB, USB-C, and then a regular wall outlet back there too. So ton of options that are available. It's pretty dang nice. Now, a few other things to point out. No cup holders inside of the second row seats whatsoever. We do also have our power sliding rear window that I pointed out there. Up overhead, we've got hooks on both the driver passenger side, and then some lights here too. So a lot of nice options that are available inside of this thing. But we've got a lot of other cool ones that you won't necessarily be able to see because I'm sitting on the seat. So hopping out for a second here, if I pop this seat up, we do have a little bit of floor storage, but we've got the option for our partition lockable storage on top of that. And one of the benefits there is that it does lock this down. So the seat has the option of fully locking down if we want it to. So if we're transporting certain things that need to be locked up, you do have that available there as an option. But if you want to walk through and how the partition lockable storage works, check down in the description below. I've put together a crazy comprehensive video. One thing I love is that once the seats are actually up, they're up. So we can't crank these things down whatsoever until we pull the lever along the side, so the little tab there, in order to be able to fold it back down again. But as I said, styling-wise, feature-wise, it's great. And like space-wise, like this is ridiculous. Like I have so much space inside of the SuperCrew version of the truck. Super cab, I'd be about here. It'd be a tiny little bit tight, but I mean, at the same time, it's going to depend on what you personally need. But like, I don't want to sit with me on my knees. This is how much space I've got right now. Still pretty nice though. One thing that's slightly unique, so actually, well, I mean, if we lift this bottom seat up, we will have our power inverter there. Again, same thing, this thing, it's clicked up once it's there and it's locked in until we pull the tab along the side and drop it back down again. But we also do have another little tab off to the side here. So we pull that tab, the seat goes forward instead, and we've got all of our tether points there. So if we need to install child seats, we've got that flexibility. We've got our jack here, as well as our little white spigot. So if we ever need to fill up using a jerry can, we're inserting this in order to be able to fill up first. But I mean, really straightforward in the back here. If you ever need to change the tire yourself, you can, but you do also have the flexibility of calling Ford roadside assistance instead. And one of the big benefits there is that with roadside assistance, they will come and they can help change the tire out. They can tow you to a Ford dealer, whatever the case may be. Think of it like CAA or AAA down in the States, but it's tied specifically to the truck instead. So you do have that available as an option if you want to use that instead. Like, hold on, let's do a quick little. That is super respectable. Really respectable out of this truck. Great amount of power here. I love that technology assist. So it does have the lane keeping system. So as we were kind of going around that bend there, it did gently kind of nudge me into the lane and like kind of keep me there as I go. It's not quite as good as the Blue Cruise hands-free driving that we'll find in some Ford vehicles right now, but it's still a pretty dang nice system all at the same time. I don't know if you watch the YouTube channel Linus Tech Tips, but he just went through this like amazing video on like different dash cams and how pretty much every dash cam at like every price point, pretty much the exact same. It's all got to do with the sensors that are inside of it. That's a really good video. I'll link down to that one, but there are some pretty cool dash cams that you can get, whether that's one strictly for the front, if you want to have something for the rear as well. It's going to be your choice, but like dash cams in general, I just think they're a really, really good idea. Huh. Speaking of, let's do a giveaway. When the channel hits 20,000 subs, I'm going to be giving away a few dash cams. So if you want to get in on that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let me know what kind of car you've got as well, because some of these dash cams look slightly better than others on certain ones. So which car are you driving right now? So that was a look at the 23 F150 XLT. What did you think? Pretty dang nice. I do kind of love the look of the Heritage package, but I'd probably take the XLT Black Appearance package over anything. Thing looks really, really sharp. What did you think? If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. More than willing to talk you through any issues that you might be having. But if you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, share it with your social networks, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Until I see you next time, take care.